Staying true to yourself while creating, that's one of the hardest things you'll do. Every artist, entrepreneur, and creator faces the same tension. How do you honor your vision when bills need paying? When critics don't understand? What does it actually take to stay true to yourself in your creative work? What do you risk? And what do you gain by being yourself? I'm an actor, author, and entrepreneur, and my own journey has shown me that being authentic in your creativity requires courage. So settle in, these are honest conversations about what it means to create. Today's conversation is with Jasmine Nieto, an educator and author, and we are going to explore creativity and storytelling and the challenge of creating freely when so many voices are telling you what's appropriate. Hi, Jasmine.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's good to see you again.
Of course. Could you kind of give a little bit of background information on yourself so people can learn more about you?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in New York. I lived there until 2007, and then I moved to North Carolina. And I went to school at Appalachian State University on a teaching fellow scholarship. I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I decided when I was 5. There were, other jobs here and there, but I thought, that's not really what I love. I loved the idea of, when I was young, commanding a room, but as I got older, I just cherished the relationships that I had with educators. And I loved that they loved me and saw my potential for who I was. Just when I showed up, they didn't know everything about me. Mm-hmm. Some of them showed an interest and would ask, and I would tell them how much I loved music, and I would tell them how I was a dancer and how I was on the bowling team and on the tennis team. And sometimes they would come to my meets if I asked. And I just remember feeling so loved and cherished by the people who poured themselves into me. I remember every single one of my teachers from elementary school. I can list all of them from kindergarten all the way up to 6th grade. And then there are the ones, fair in between with middle school and high school, but always music, always literature, and Spanish and music.
Amazing.
I ended up getting a degree in elementary education with a concentration in English and a minor in music because I couldn't choose. I love kids, I love music, and I love everything to do with reading and writing and speaking and listening and expression. And so I've been very fortunate to be on a team at Scroggs Elementary School where I started off as this 4th grade teacher and eventually moved up as a 5th grade teacher. And now I had the honor of being the 5th grade ELA teacher who sings and dances her way through the curriculum and works on whole child learning and the importance of relationships and being a good human. And it's been the biggest joy of my life.
Amazing.
Truly.
And you have been Teacher of the Year and a few other things. What do you want to kind of talk to that?
My very first year teaching, I actually won Promising New Teacher of the Year. So it's essentially New Teacher of the Year back in 2014. And then in 2018, I was named District Teacher of the Year. In between, I earned a couple of grants for our school to start initiatives around the Scrogworts experience, which we can talk about.
Yes, I want to
virtual
definitely.
reality and eventually Game Changers. And then I was named the elementary chair for teacher excellence and innovation for 2023 through 25.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
That's very incredible. So I would love to touch on the Scrogworts because I've heard all about it from people in the community. Do you want to kind of go into that?
Yeah, sure. My team and I were fortunate enough to be sent to the Ron Clark Academy by the district. I believe the first time we went was in 2016. And when you go to the Ron Clark Academy in Georgia as a teacher for the very first time and you don't really know what you're getting into, it's like an amusement park for teachers. And we were like, I want to do this and this and this and this. And we're very overwhelmed. But I love Harry Potter. That was the year that Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them came out. So I was like, this is my year. My classroom theme can finally be Harry Potter and it's relevant. So I had, kids grouped by houses, but with no true categorization or anything like that, or differentiated groups or anything. But when we went, Ron Clark has a house system.
Oh, okay.
He has his houses and the kids get sorted and then they meet, and it's beyond just academics. Is a true social emotional component to everything he does, while also holding the kids to a standard that some may argue is a little bit too harsh, but we very much talk about, if you want to play hard, you're going to have to work hard. We play Quidditch. I created with my neighbors with PVC piping. We have Quidditch hoops. And
how does that work? How does that work in the classroom?
So that is an outside of the classroom thing.
Gotcha.
But your houses, they earn points.
Oh,
so
nice.
On the first day of school, we have a huge ceremony. We kind of trickled it into the 2016-17 school year, but it wasn't anything authentic. What I loved about Ron Clark is they had houses for their school. I was like, we can't just be Hufflepuff and Gryffindor and Ravenclaw.
Yeah.
And then everybody asks, oh, so is this house this? No, they're based on our core values. So our core values at Scroggs are LEAP: love learning, earn respect, act safely, and practice teamwork. So I'd been thinking, and I have the note on my phone from January 2017, where I woke up in the middle of the night and I said, I've got it. So what I did is I explored the different frogs we have these plastic frogs that we gave out, and we are the Scroggs frogs. So we have different colors, and I assigned each color to each core value. Blue, love learning; orange, earn respect; green, practice or act safely; and purple, practice teamwork with some leadership in there as well. And I thought, okay, where in the world do these frogs of these colors live? And eventually all the houses were created, right? We have Lorendin is Dutch for learner, and that's where the blue poison dart frog is found. And I have all of the characteristics for each one. And so we have Lorendin, we have Respetuoso, we have Efafile, and we have Safmin.
Wow.
And that was the process for everything. And I just said, I've got it. And then obviously I brought it to my team, and they were like, okay, Jasmine, let's do it. And I said, okay. And then that summer I found an artist, and we had our crests made, and we had all of the items that were representative of the different qualities. And we've even used like the multicultural night at our school for the kids to take the opportunity to learn about their country and their values and where their house comes from. And so
That's
Fridays
incredible.
we have house meetings. And it sounds crazy, but we sing and we dance. The kids write songs. They teach them to each other. They write choreography. They teach them to each other. We kind of sit in the back of the room and they perform. But throughout the year, we earn points. We earn points academically and non. We focus on growth. We focus on a growth mindset. It's not about you got 100 on this test for the 20th time. Here's your 20th frog and your 20th point. That's not sustainable. We find opportunities. Oh, wow, that was a really awesome love learning moment. Thank you. And then we even have tadpoles, which are just when the kids don't know we're looking and we see them doing something amazing. Like somebody was walking in the hallway and all their stuff fell. And as a kid, you're going to giggle, you're going to chuckle, but there's always that one kid who, when they thought we weren't looking, went up to them and said, hey, are you all right? Let me help you. And they're the ones that get recognized.
That's sweet.
And so when your team earns a certain number of points, you have rewards. And when you do individually, you get rewards. Quidditch is one of those rewards.
That's so fun.
You get to, if you want, during recess, and lunch, we will coach you. And then at the end of the year, there is a Quidditch cup that you can earn.
That's amazing. I love how you were able to pull in what you love, which is the Harry Potter universe, and bring it to the classroom for children. That's really, really incredible. Yeah. Now, you also are an author and a new mom, and your book, By My Side, is about basically that process. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been writing for work my entire educational career as a teacher, honestly. I write songs for the students in the classroom. I write stories for the students in the classroom. We write narratives all the time. I've always said I wanted to write a book. I've been really inspired by Rob Bouyer, who is a teacher who wrote a novel. He comes virtually to our classroom every year and talks to the kids. But I was always like, I always struggled to keep going with an entire novel. So when I had my son, I was absolutely floored by how my first son with 4 legs and a whopping 7 pounds at 9 years old loved him. And I wanted to capture that. And so I wanted to write a little book for Paolo, for my son Paolo, about his bond with Weasley.
Yeah. Your dog.
Which is, yes, it's my little dog, as in Ronald Weasley.
From the Harry Potter series.
Absolutely. When I first got him, his little tray was like, his water bowl said Aguamente and his food said Accio, and it was a whole, he's a Gryffindor. He actually, I brought him to school when we first got him. Some of my kids now, that year, they're now sophomores, I believe, in college.
Wow.
But they're like, Weasley's still around and kicking. I said, oh yeah. And some of them saw him at the event. They had met him when he was this big. No, he wasn't this big, but you know, it's been really cool.
And so you wanted to write the book to
honor that relationship. And I thought, I love writing songs, and songs are just poems.
Yeah.
So I'm going to write it as a poem. And I said, okay, I love writing point of view assignments with our kiddos. So I said, I'm going to have a story, and it's going to be almost a love note from Weasley to Paolo.
That's sweet.
The whole time you don't realize that Paolo's the person that's being spoken to. Weasley is just telling the story of Mom, and then all of a sudden Mom gets tired, and then she gets around, and then she goes away. We were actually gone for quite a while. We were gone for about a week. Things weren't super duper smooth. And that's actually what our second book is about.
Right. And so I was just going to say, so before we kind of touch on the second book, as a writer, so you're an educator and, you know, working with parents and, you know, the education system, obviously you're in a bit of a tight bubble or a bit of a constraint. Have you ever felt like you couldn't express your true self because you were worried about what maybe some of the other teachers or the administrators or the parents would think?
I would think that for 0.5 seconds, because I know that I have a strong support system. My principal, Crystal Epps, has been a wholehearted supporter of everything that I do and everything that we do as a team, because we yield results. And she truly knows that every wonky, ridiculous idea that I've had, from Scrogwarts to singing and dancing and jumping in front of the children to dressing up on camera when we were in COVID so that they can have their read aloud, was there for a reason. I am all about connections. I am all about being me. My students know that I am just a big kid, but they also respect me because I have high expectations of them. And because of that bond that we create, they perform. I had the opportunity to do my action research for my thesis on how Scrogwarts impacts not just students, but particularly students of color, and addressing the achievement gap within Chapel Hill, Carrboro City schools, within our own school, and how Scrogwarts made every single child of color grow.
That's amazing.
So I know that I was supported. There were people who questioned, but
How do you deal with the people who question?
my principal wouldn't let it.
Oh, that's nice.
She protected us. There were the people who didn't think it was okay would go above us. Right. And I do what I do. I know what I'm doing. I yield results. I'm doing what's in the best interest of your child every single time, I promise. You just have to trust, and it might not work. And I talk to my kids about that all the time. We mentioned the growth mindset. That has to happen. As an educator, I'm going to flop. Yeah. There have been times where I was so set. I thought my one song was going to rock it out. My lesson was going to be amazing. And they just looked at me and didn't understand it. And so then I would look at the data. I would look at the formative assessment of the day. I would look at how the lesson went. And I would talk to my team, but I talked to the kids right away. What did I do? What worked? What didn't work? Talk to what's going on? Yeah. Talk to your friends. What do you need? Talk to me. When it's crickets and they're starting to look away, we say, all right, guys, let's get up. What's going on? Let's talk. Yeah. What can I do to make this better? What are you confused about? We just don't get okay, how can I help you? Ask those questions. Talk to your neighbor. See if they can help you. If they can't help you, what can we do? And I let them watch me fail. I let them see that I'm willing to shift and pivot. And if I get stuck in my own way, then it's a disservice to them. So as someone who truly, everything I do is to make the world better or leave the world better than I left it. Sure. Or than I found it, rather. That was something that I had really dug deep into when I was Teacher of the Year in 2018. I had to give a speech to the whole district 3 times. And it was about leaving the world better than I found it, because it's, why do you teach? Why do you teach? Why do I teach? Because I love kids, because I loved it. Why do I teach? I'm going to do whatever it takes. Yeah. I will never forget when I was a student teacher, I dropped down to the floor. We had a little behavior management system and it wasn't working. My little person on the wall, on the whiteboard, he had a sad face. And then I gave him X's on his eyes, and then there was a tombstone. But my student teacher had been out of the room. She stepped out to use the restroom, and they were out of control. So I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And I was just like, okay. I just dropped to the floor. And I will do what I need to do for them to just stop and be like, and then I just popped back up, and they just low-key thought I was a zombie for the whole year. And I will do, and some of them know I was 100% kidding, but I will jump and dance and scream, and I will act a complete fool if that's what it takes, which is really what it takes these days.
Well, that's interesting because, I think with this stigma of education, we have to put children in, I know it's changed over the years, but, if you go back to, way decades ago, right? Like it was kids sitting in a classroom, just, doing their lesson in their chairs, not really being active, having a set number of hours or minutes for a recess, and they're just kind of stuck in those places. And the kids really weren't able to be authentic in themselves, and they weren't able to see a teacher that was able to show them how to be authentic. So it's almost like we raised robotic children for so long. So for you to be able to use your own authentic expression to tell these kids that, hey, yeah, it's okay to be fun. It's okay to be goofy. It's okay to be, not serious and not to even take yourself seriously. That's incredibly valuable for these kids to see an adult doing that, because it gets them out of their shell, and it lets them see that they can be themselves and they don't have to, be constrained in a way. So, that's great that you do things like that and you're able to show this side of yourself to the kids. Is there anything that you've written that, or you're planning to write that is not really appropriate for, children's education, and you kind of have to, like, it's like a little dance that you have to do because you want people to obviously see you as this teacher, but at the same time you want to be, you're an author, you're a writer, which means you're going to be talking about things that aren't necessarily appropriate for children. Is there like any sort of balance that you have to keep with that? Or
that is a dance that I've been dancing my whole life, because these kids in 5th grade are about to be middle schoolers and they know a lot and they experience a lot. And I am a biracial woman of color, and I've gone through a lot, and my son is triracial, and we talk about these things. We're not afraid to talk about even just equity. We have hard conversations, and I was actually just talking to my aunt about a really hard conversation that would not have been appropriate for school at all, but just the issues that people have with people using the bathroom. And I talked to my aunt the way that my kids said something the year that was a huge deal in the news. We used to watch CNN Student News, and I told her, my kids looked at us and said, "What's the big deal? They're going to the bathroom and they're not hurting anybody." And I said, "That's your opinion. We have to be mindful. I don't want to be like, yes." But I said, kids are not born with hate in their souls. Kids understand, right? I don't have to talk to them about being trans. I talk to them about feeling authentic. Back in the day, we called it being a tomboy. Right. If you didn't feel comfortable wearing dresses, right. But there doesn't have to be this horrible stigma. Same thing around pronouns, same thing around mental health, right? I have these delicate conversations with children because that's the life they live, especially since online learning and the world shutting down and them having access to social media beyond what they honestly should be. Right. But you have to meet them where they are. And so in the classroom, I would say my homework was to scroll on TikTok and know what the heck they were talking about. What does it mean to be this word? Yeah. And they were like, "You know what I'm saying?" I said, "Yes, thank you. Stop with the brain rot." "Oh, you know what brain rot is?" Yes. And I say that because my next book is a children's book, but it's about the NICU. I take my experiences and I write from there. My first book is From Weasley to Paolo, and my second book is from Paolo. It's a love letter from Paolo to mommy, from I wrote as my son to me. We had a really hard pregnancy. We didn't understand what was going on with my heart. It was beating really fast. I don't hit that too hard because it is a kid's book, but my son spent days in the NICU and they tried to send me home without him. And so the second book is called Back Home to You. And almost every verse ends with something along the lines of like, "Didn't they want me to come back home to you?" Or I'm almost back home with you. And then at the very end, it actually ends at like in the middle of the second book or in the middle of the first book, right? It's an extension. I'm finally, resting back home with you. Because my kids were like, "Yeah, I was in the NICU. I was yellow." And I was just like, "You're just talking about that like it's no big deal."
Because they're seeing it from like a child's perspective, so not like the terrified
The way
parent.
that I talked about it, right? The first book has an author's note from me about Weasley. The second book has an author's note to the kiddos from Paolo.
That's sweet.
It's me, Paolo. When I was born, I was in a place with a lot of, scary lights, and it was called the NICU. And that's where I spent most of my time. And my mommy and my daddy were really scared for me, but because we had a really great team of doctors, everything turned out fine. And we want to tell our story because maybe you came from there too. And that's how we did that.
That's interesting. That's nice because there are, just like you said, there are kids that recognize that they were in the NICU, so they'll relate to that.
Exactly. And it was just like, wait a minute. You thought you kept thinking, Miss John or Mrs. Nieto, you kept thinking that he was going to come back to you and he wasn't. Yeah. They would say you met the numbers and then just kidding. No. Oh, they said, okay, he's coming home. No. Oh, now they're telling you need to leave without him. No. Right. And so it was a really scary moment. And the way that I processed it, beyond just that picture book, as I had mentioned, I love music. Yeah. I write poetry. I write songs. I did that in my classroom. So I actually have, for the first book and the second book, I have like a whole playlist of songs. But the first book is it's happy, it's Weasley, it's yay, it's all the different ways we can love reading by our side and being with Paolo and Weasley. But the second book, playlist, the song is called Hello, like hello from Adele.
Yeah.
So instead of saying hello, it's me, it's hello, mommy, and it's the whole, sweet. And it's a song. I couldn't record it because I now have a baby, so I wrote the whole thing, and I used Suno AI, and I wrote exactly how I wanted it to sound with everything. It's the minor control in me. I was like, 37 seconds. I want there to be a chime or, and it's from Paolo to me. But
so you have the musical companion to the book. So you mentioned the poetry. So we discussed earlier that you do slam poetry as well.
I do.
Yeah. So how do you use the slam poetry as an outlet? Is it personal experiences you talk about? Do you go deep? Are you worried about maybe some of the parents of your students coming to listen to that? Or
I don't post that for my children.
Okay.
To be honest, I wrote something that was really deeply personal, and I didn't want to post it on my social media, like my Facebook or my Instagram, because I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but I felt like I wanted to be heard. So I posted it on TikTok, and unfortunately it hurt somebody's feelings in my family. So I've since taken it down. But I've written poetry around my feelings, around my, the best writing comes from your personal experiences and usually your struggles. Because I am a creative, and I'm very technologically savvy. I used AI. I wanted to create an image. I wanted specific colors, specific imagery. I wanted it to sound a certain way. I wanted a background sound. I wrote a letter that I never got a chance to post, which I don't know if I ever will. But I wrote a letter to my mom. My mom passed away in 2017. So thank you. I wrote it for her birthday because it was the first time I was a mom without a mom.
Wow.
And I wrote it, and I had this beautiful image of the pinks and the purples and the swirls, and she loved Tinkerbell, and she loved Peter Pan, and she loved animals. And so it was this whole thing. And I think of her as home, and I titled it Middle C, because whenever I'm feeling the need to be grounded, I'll grab my instrument or my piano or my keyboard, and I always go back to the home chord. And I had the background music of a clarinet because that's my primary instrument, and a cello. And I had some audio files of my mom and me laughing, and those are the things that I write for me.
Yeah.
I'd love to. I'm working on a little something. There's no title yet, but it's almost like an adult psychological thriller. I write based off of my experiences, and that will not, in fact, be a children's book.
How do you, when you are considering these new projects and these new writing, whether it's slam poetry or music or psychological thrillers, do you ever, is there ever a voice in the back of your head that's saying, oh, I'm worried about what so-and-so is going to think. I'm worried that maybe some of my former administrators or former teachers or parents or students are going to look at me a certain way. And how do you reconcile with that? How do you deal with that?
There's always a voice in my head. And I work really hard to be my truest form of me. Since becoming a mom, my brain, something has shifted, and I care a little bit less, not to be disrespectful in any way, but I think I want to show Paolo that it's okay to express yourself. I want Paolo to know that you deserve to be treated a certain way, and if you aren't, that is not okay, and this is what you do. Or you don't need to shrink yourself to fit into a box. And I've done that most of my personal life, to be honest, because I don't want to cause tension or discomfort. I am a people pleaser. I have a perfectionist complex. I'm well aware of all of that. But I've worked through a lot of that in therapy because I knew I wanted to be a mom. And then once I became a mom, I felt like I needed to work on it in hyperdrive.
Yeah, and be perfect at being a mom.
Right. And it's not even to be perfect. It's like, how can I work through all of this trauma so that it doesn't make me, so I don't harm my son, if that makes any sense.
Of course.
But so I literally, people were like, all you're doing is writing, you're not sleeping. I was like, I promise I'm doing, you know that I would write these academic songs on the way home from work in the car in 5 minutes. I was like, you know how fast I write a song. You know how fast I do this. Like, this was my outlet. I needed to write I wrote over 30 songs since I've had a child.
Wow.
I have published
in 8 months.
2 books.
Oh my goodness.
I have slam poetry. I'm in the works with a local artist to try to create a board book series on emotional regulation so that kids know that it's okay to have big feelings.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Rachel. Right? Like, we have all of those songs. That just wasn't how we grew up. And I know that kids need that.
Right.
I've seen it when we tell them, stop crying, or, you know, I would never, but like, you think about how you felt when you were like, stop crying, don't do that, tell me this. No, they need a minute.
Yeah.
Write it down. If you can't do it right now, I understand. Please write it down. Do you need some time? Yes. Take a breath. Do you need to take a walk and then come back? Yes. All of that was never allowed. Right. And it honestly doesn't seem like it's allowed when you're an adult in some situations as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And when people are pushing your boundaries, it's not okay.
Right.
And that's where my type of work that I'm trying to hone in on now comes from. It's all for Paolo. Even this psychological thriller I'm trying to write in verse.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll publish it fully and he'll read it one day. Maybe it's for me. But it's to reclaim myself in a way that I've never done before. I've been my authentic self whenever I feel comfortable, and I feel comfortable in front of kids because I know they don't judge me.
Right. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. And if they do, okay, I'm your teacher. Like,
right.
You still have to do what I've asked you to do. Like, right. And sometimes I look at them and I talk to them just like that. I'm like, well, moving on, that was awkward. Right. I'm not, and I talk to them, you know, and I'm like that in front of the parents, and they know that I will do what I need to do for their kids to learn, and that everything I do is for their kids.
Right.
I am in touch with my students from my very first class. One of my kids, I saw her over winter break. She looked at me and said, Miss Johnson, even though I'm Mrs. Nieto, Miss Johnson, how weird is this? You taught me when you were 22. I'm 22. You had just graduated from app. I'm graduating from app. And now you have a kid and I'm holding him.
Oh.
And I'm just like, I am so proud of you. And she looked at me dead in the face and said, I lost my mind. She was like, you let me know that I was smart and that I could do it. And if it wasn't for you, I don't know if I would have been as successful as I would throughout school to know. And I kept in touch with her. Wow. I stayed with her. I tutored her out when she had moved outside of the district. She had invited me to things. She knew that I loved her, and I do. And I love all of my children. Yeah. But things are changing, and now I have my own son, and I love him the most.
Yeah.
My third book, if things continue, was going to be I love you the most, and it was going to be a love note from me to my son and Weasley, and that everything that I do is for them, but it's for us. I love us the most because you have to love yourself before you can really love someone else.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I mean, wow, Jasmine, you're such a powerhouse. I mean, no, it's incredible. All the work that you do for the kids, and, you know, being able to see these kids grow up and tell you how you affected them is really, really important. So if you could let our audience know where they can support your work, where they can find your book, your music, all of that.
Absolutely. So my first book is available on Amazon, but only the paperback. You can purchase the hardcovers on Ingram Pilgrim Spark for the first and the second, but you can also get them at Barnes & Noble. If you start asking Barnes & Noble if they're there, maybe they'll stock them in the store. But you can buy them on barnesandnoble.com. You can buy both By My Side and Back Home to You. I have a YouTube channel for academic songs under Scrogworts. I have some of my personal songs under Jasmine Nieto Author on YouTube and on Suno. I have Instagram, I have TikTok, I have Facebook, and I really appreciate any support you guys can provide.
Absolutely.
And I'll be around.
Yay! Thank you so much, Jasmine. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for this wonderful, wonderful exploration into storytelling. I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate your time.